illegal because it said it 40 times they would die. 39 times are fine. Now, you're going to count with me. Are you ready? Remember, this is sore. Okay, flip it back to. Ready? 1, 2. The louder you shout, the harder I'll whip. Ready? 1, 2, 3. This is not fun.
Let me do it.
3. You're a bit late, so we won't carry on to 39 and use all our time. Come closer. And this would be attached to the top with a big rusty nail. You were then allowed to go free. You can only top, you're allowed to go free. Again, with a big, thick nail. And it was his choice when he would pull himself away, leaving his ear attached there. He could no longer hear, but we're allowed to go. Now, can you tell me what crime these two must have committed for this terrible torture?
Being English.
Murder.
No, we just run them over when you do that. Murder. In Edinburgh, the punishment fits the crime. Sharp, we're lying. We're getting closer.
Lying.
Shoplifting, it would have been a hand or a finger. Treason. The two had come into Edinburgh. They were tired and hot. They'd gone into a local tavern. The gentleman here had bought a drink and had raised a toast. You had simply said, here, here. But the toast was to the king. We were a republic under Oliver Cromwell. We did not have a king. And as you correctly said, they had committed treason. They were immediately arrested. So this shows you in Edinburgh, be careful what you say, but more importantly, be careful who's listening. Now, your appendages were left here. Sometimes souvenirs were taken. Take them home if you like. Sometimes they were left there for stray dogs or other animals to eat. It was an ear and a tongue, and as you rightly said, for pickpocketing, a hand. Some crimes like adultery, it may have been other appendages attached. Just imagine them all waving at you as you went past.
Oh my god.
Again, people took the souvenirs and they were just left there to rot and fall off. It's a rather nice place. Often had heads on stakes at the top if criminals had been beheaded. We were a bloodthirsty lot. Reason being is it is customary to spit on the heart of Midlothian. And you will see, given COVID times it's got slightly less common, but every local you know will spit on Heart of Midlothian. This used to be where the old toll booth was. In fact, you can see these metal bricks and out to here where the gold ones are. That used to be the toll booth or jail. Now that was where the criminals were held. It's customary since those days in the 1800s to spit at the door of the jail where this was. Now we don't know if that was because they were angry that their friends were imprisoned, or if it was because they were angry at the prisoners. But either way, it's become a tradition in Scotland to spit on the Heart of Midlothian for good luck. Go down here. This is Advocate Close. For those of you who've been walking around, you'll have worked out Edinburgh's built on a hill. Castle at the top, palace at the bottom, and the Royal Mile running in between. It's kind of like if you imagine a fishbone. You've got the head, you've got the tail, and small streets or closes come off either side. We're in one of those closes. The closes were named after people that lived there. So this is Advocate Close. So at some point there would have been an advocate for the law, or a lawyer would have lived here. Now in these closes, this is a very good representation because you can see quite how narrow the original parts were. In fact, they were so narrow you can often reach out your hand on one side and shake the hand of someone who lived in the opposite building. They were steep, they were dark. I was doing a tour one night about midnight and there was a power cut. I learned very quickly how dark these closes could really be. At either side you have the tenements. Now these tenements were sometimes up 9 or 10 stories high. And in some areas, it was until the 1940s that they got running water. Families were in one room. A family was not just a mother, father, and child. It was often up to 12 people. Aunties, uncles, grandparents. No running water. But we did have a bucket. We called it the bucket of nastiness. And that was put in the corner of each room. Now this bucket went everything. Bodily functions. Perhaps you were sick the night before because of too many whiskies. Perhaps you had the runs. Potato peels, dirty nappies, everything. Until it brimmed and frothed quite like a cappuccino, but with lumpy bits. Now who is this here? No, any idea? Who do we reckon? He's not admitting it. What did you guys do? Well. Well, it's one of your jobs. It's the youngest person's job to dispose of the nastiness. Do you think you'd walk down 10 flights of stairs with it sloping all over your legs? What would you do? You'd open the window and you'd throw it out. Yeah. In fact, there was a law passed at 10 o'clock every night. It was legal to throw the nastiness out of the window. You would open the window and you would shout a warning, "Gardez-loo." Loosely translated, this meant watch out for the water. It was a bit more than water, but it gave the general gist. It would come cascading down, covering everybody who was walking there. Ladies would later walk down with their large petticoats, splishing it everywhere. The lanterns were lit with fish oil, so imagine the stench we had in the closes. All the nastiness would bubble and slowly slide right to the Norloch at the bottom. Did you see Princess Street Gardens today? Very lush, very green. I'm sure it's very busy today with the heat. Well fertilised. Now into the Norloch would go all this disgustingness. When it was drained, we also found an awful lot of skeletons. You see, we didn't like anyone that looked a bit different in Edinburgh. Anybody with birthmarks, anyone that was left-handed, anyone at all could be accused of witchcraft. Are you a witch? Yes. What you've just done is you've got off. So you said yes, so we will immediately hang you, and you're dead. Pretty easy. However, your mum, your daughter, your friends next door who are females, your aunties, your gran, you've just implicated them all in witchcraft because it runs in families. I'll ask you again, are you a witch?
No.
Let's just pretend you're not for this process. Are you a witch?
No.
No, right. We take her down to the Norloch and we throw her in. If she sunk, then we're a bit sorry and she was probably innocent. Oops. If she floated, it's because the devil himself was holding you up. Nothing to do with all the huge petticoats that track the air. In fact, women would sew rocks under their skirts so they could be pulled deeper under the water so they could drown quickly and be pronounced innocent. But we dragged you out, we again asked, are you a witch? She was put on more trial. We put her fingers in thumb screws. We tightened it until all the bones were crushed, mangled, the nails pinging off, hitting you in the face. Again, you can take home as a souvenir. We put her on the rack. We stretched her till every muscle, every cartilage, every bone was separated. Eventually, we asked her again, are you a witch? She still said she was innocent. So, of course, because she hadn't made her peace with the Lord, we had to sort it out. We took her. That would be quite scary. We took her and we burnt her alive in agonizing pain. Her remains were thrown into the Norloch. There's a small statue up at Castle Hill just to say how sorry we are. If you're at Castle tomorrow, you'll see just outside the gates a little fountain just to say how sorry we are. It's thought that Scotland actually killed more people for witchcraft than any other European country between the 15th and 1800s. Over 4,000 were burnt at the stake, probably all alive. Remains again, Norloch. Incidentally, the Norloch was our main source of drinking water, collected in a bucket. Don't worry, we're not that disgusting, we gave you a separate bucket. No wonder the plague and illness is horrific in it.
This tour is so amazing. This is probably like my favorite tour yet. I love scary stuff. So yeah, I'm in Edinburgh, Scotland right now, and it's pretty cool. Gosh, this is so amazing.
Our put-in for our company celebrations are New Year, because we have thousands and thousands of people coming. Now during the festival time we have it's now about 3,000 venues that become theatre venues, music venues, artists. So many people come to Edinburgh. It was known and still is as a city of art and culture. Many films have been filmed in Edinburgh. In fact, if you turn around and have a look at St Giles, you've got the big spire, smaller spire on the left, and you have the fence in between. That fence was put up for the Avengers Infinity War, for the fight that happens with the witch on top of the St Giles. If you've got massive Marvel fans, I'm trying to remember. But there's a fight up there. It's filmed while they fly through the front window, which is obviously done on computer because that window is worth millions. So that's why that fence was up there. There was also Fast and Furious 9. You've seen it. There's a lot filmed in Edinburgh. I did very nearly meet Vin Diesel. I saw his car and I hung about for a while, but he didn't turn up. My friend saw Vin Diesel, so it was very exciting. But this is not news. Edinburgh has been a home for the arts for many years. And right back many centuries ago, the great Lafayette came to Edinburgh. Now, does anyone like theatre? Does anyone like magic? So the great Lafayette was one of the most famous magicians at his time. And he was an ex-apologist. And he used to do an amazing escape where he would swap places with a real live lion. He was in the Festival Theatre, which is just a bit further down that way. Now when he came to Edinburgh, he brought with him his dog. Unfortunately, 3 days into his stay in Edinburgh, his dog died. They said it was due to overindulgence. His dog used to be fed chocolate, fed whiskey, everything that he wanted to feed his dog. And his dog died. And he demanded that his dog be buried in consecrated ground. Now, in Scotland we didn't allow animals to be buried in consecrated ground, but they made the exception for Lafayette's dog, providing Lafayette joined him in the same grave when he died, which would make it a tourist attraction for Edinburgh. Little did Lafayette know how soon that would be. You see, a week into his show, the lion kicked over a lamp. Now, these days lamps are obviously LED in theatres, but in those days it was fire, and it set fire to the stage curtains and in turn the stage. The whole theatre was alight. Everybody escaped, and then Lafayette remembered that his horses were downstairs. You see, Lafayette was a great animal lover and used horses all the time in his act. He didn't want to see them hurt. So he and his stagehand went back in. Unfortunately, Lafayette and 10 of his men perished in the fire. Edinburgh fell into mourning, and we had a huge procession coming right up the Royal Mile with Lafayette in his coffin in a big carriage. In a big ceremony, Lafayette was buried next to his dog in the graveyard. A few days later, when the theatre had cooled down, people went in and started to try and rummage and see what they could salvage from the costumes and everything. And they found the body. They found the body of the great Lafayette. It was found out that Lafayette used a stunt double that no one knew about, and this was actually the real Lafayette that came found. Now the Edinburgh Council didn't want to look stupid. They didn't want to kill anybody. So they quickly buried the body of the real Lafayette in an unmarked grave. From that day onwards, it said the Festival Theatre is haunted by the ghost of the great Lafayette. I imagine he's not very happy that he's been buried in a pauper's grave and his stunt double has claimed his title of magician. The reason I tell you that here is mainly to point out why these things are here, and although they spoil the sight of this part of the Royal Mile, Edinburgh is just so popular that at times the street needs to be shut off and tickets to get in, because so many people want to be part of the artistic atmosphere in Edinburgh Festival and at Hogmanay. Now, other books have been written in Edinburgh. I'm sure you'll learn about Deacon Brodie tomorrow. That's his pub, and you'll learn about him. But is anybody Harry Potter fans here?
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to pass on our way down Victoria Street. Unfortunately, it is quite a lot of scaffolding up at the moment. We're doing a lot of repairs to it. But Victoria Street was used as inspiration for one of the streets in Harry Potter. And I'll let you imagine what it was, and we'll tell you more about that when we get to the graveyard. We'll also pass the Elephant House, which again is locked up because they had a big fire during COVID. You can even smell the fire near it. And the Elephant House was said to be the birthplace of Harry Potter, where J.K. Rowling used to sit and write a lot of her books. We're then in the graveyard, where again J.K. Rowling took a lot of inspiration, and there are graves